If you're an entrepreneur or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, seriously, go out, take the first step, get the Idiot's Guidebook, just get into it. Seriously, get started. It's a good time to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy, but it's a good time, and it's only going to get better.
Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast. Join host Marco Torres, along with expert guests, as they deliver incredible, proven solutions to your marketing challenges in each power-packed episode.
Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast. Today, we will dive into the life and times of Captain Travis Rosbach. Captain Rosbach has spent the last 3 decades enhancing his entrepreneur skills. Throughout the years, Mr. Rosbach has been proud to invent and found Hydro Flask. He works as a business broker and flies as an airline pilot. Travis is an active professional speaker and provides sourcing, advising, and consulting services. His clients include various industries, celebrities, individuals, and even countries. He not only shares his tradecraft with others, but also practices it in many startups of his own. In addition to being an entrepreneur, Mr. Rosbach experience includes, very interesting guy here, scuba dive master and instructor, U.S. merchant marine boat captain, up to 50-ton vessels, commercial airline pilot, Oregon contractor's license, Hawaii realtor's license, yoga instructor, and a whole bunch of more cool stuff. Travis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Marco. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. And boy, I look forward to hearing some of your stories. How did you get to the point where you went from boat captain and merchant marines to airline pilot? I mean, you've got a nice big variety of things you've done in your life, including traveling around the world with all kinds of extreme activities, I understand. So I am all ears and inspired to hear more about you, Travis.
Well, yeah, it's been an extreme one, that is for certain. I met my dad when I was 14, and I'd already been studying business for a couple of years. My neighbor had died when I was 12. I inherited this huge library of business books, and Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, all the sort of a legendary who's who in self-help and business negotiation, sales, marketing, stuff like that. And I took a real passion, a real liking for the business world. So I started doing that when I was 12. And then when I was 14, I met my dad. He was in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands at Cane Bay Dive Shop. And he was running a business. And I was like, well, hey, I just read a book. And if you do this and that, it might increase sales. He'd try it. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But I got to actually kind of put my foot where my mouth had been and see if it would work out. And I loved it. And so I became a dive instructor and a dive master after high school, and then eventually got my 50-ton U.S. Merchant Marine captain's license, running everything from small inflatable high-speed ocean rafting explorations through St. Thomas and the British Virgin Islands, a lot of parasail boats, a lot of scuba diving boats, and even up into yachts and things like that, all over the place. I lived in Australia and ran a parasail boat and worked at a helicopter company, and just always had a passion for being out and about in the world and not really caring much about money or anything else and material possessions. I was gaining experiences. And then one day I decided I'd had enough of the boat captaining. I was on a yacht, and he said, hey, come on, you're now the captain of this yacht. Really good money, really good life for a 20-something-year-old. And I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. There is something just about it that just didn't set right with me. And so I said, I'm done. I walked down the gangplank and I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? Look over, and there's a seaplane taking off from Christiansted Harbor out of St. Croix. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go fly seaplanes.
Now I got to interrupt you. I got to interrupt you for a minute because we're talking about my background as well a little bit here. I grew up in the my parents were transferred to Puerto Rico. My father with General Electric Credit in the Caribbean. and he ran operations in St. Croix, St. Thomas, and Puerto Rico. And eventually we opened, when I got out of high school, I got into the restaurant business. I convinced my family, let's open restaurants because I didn't want to go to college. So we opened a restaurant in St. Thomas, and eventually we had another small one in St. Croix, just a little bitty one. But what years were
Oh
you in?
no.
What years were you in St. Thomas? We had a restaurant called Panchitas on the waterfront of Charlotte Amalia, and
Yeah.
I used to get on those seaplanes all the time to bounce back and forth between Puerto Rico and St. Thomas or St. Croix.
Yeah.
Uh, those were the coolest planes ever. But
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I flew for Seabourn Airlines from the Christiansted Harbor to the Charlotte Amalia Harbor, right next to the airport. We'd land right next to the where the cruise ships docked
yeah,
there.
no, where you guys landed was right across the street from our waterfront restaurant. It was
Yeah.
right next to the People's Bank there.
Yep. I know exactly where that is. Yeah, for sure. And then we go over to Puerto Rico and go land in the harbor over there and make that little trifecta triangle. 10 times a day I was flying that circle. I got to St. Croix in probably about 1990, I guess it would be. And the last, then I left for kind of good about 2004.
Got it.
Yeah, and I was flying the seaplanes around 2002, 2003, 2004. I also flew with a guy out of St. Thomas. We flew up and down throughout the whole Caribbean. I flew for another couple private companies in St. Croix and hit pretty much all of the islands. There's like maybe one or two that I haven't made it to. But
Cool.
yeah,
That's,
King Bay Dive Shop, North Shore, right next to La Valley. There is where I spent the vast majority of my time. My dad and his wife are now in Frederickstead.
got it. Well, we left the island a few years before you got there, like one of the hurricanes in '88 or '89, and
Hugo, yeah,
yeah,
that's
Hugo.
when my dad got there, is because of Hurricane Hugo.
Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, we left after it destroyed our restaurant, and we didn't bother to rebuild. We're like, let's just time to wrap it up. We'd been there for 18 years, so we were like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. So
What a
cool. So a
small
little,
world. That's
yeah,
great.
small world, small back, back in the similar background. The islands were great. I learned to scuba dive in the islands as well, and sailing and boating was my life. It was but I didn't take the route you did with. I always wanted to. I always wanted to be a commercial captain, especially on those yachts. I never. Now I just do it on my own boat. But so
Yeah, I think honestly that's probably the best way to do it. It's more expensive, but that's the better way to do it.
yeah, you don't have to take orders from somebody else. So Travis, tell us a bit about this. Your travels around the world. Some of this extreme stuff you do with the Exploration Club, or what is that called again?
Well, they with the Explorers Club, and I was a fellow at the Royal Geographical Society also, which is kind of the British equivalent of the American side, which is the Explorers Club. Yeah, basically what would happen is in the summers, the tourism would just drop, and we didn't have a lot of scuba diving going on because when it's warm in the States, people don't think about going down to St. Croix or St. Thomas where it's warm. I also used to work low key dive shop out of St. John with Bob and Anne Marie also, which was a lot of fun. But it would get so slow and then the crime rate would skyrocket. And so before my dad had a girlfriend, I would travel during the summers, and I would take off, Tahiti, Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, England, Ireland, wherever I was going in the world in the summer. So I'd save up all winter all of my nickels and dimes that I'd collected scuba diving and being on the boats. And I would just take off in the summer and go blow all that money and come back and start all over with nothing. And then he got a girlfriend and they started traveling. So I was there in the summers. And so I'd take off kind of in the shoulder seasons and go travel around October and April or so. So, yeah.
So cool. So I understand you get have tattoos all over that tell a story about in each different corner of the globe, and even some of your near death experiences. Uh,
Yeah.
I guess I want to hear that one first. Tell us about the near death experiences as a lumberjack on your own property. What you have a tree up fall on you, or what happened?
Wow, you guys did your research. Yeah, no, I've had multiple near death experiences. I think I'd kind of be hard pressed just to come up with two or three, but First time I got shot at was in Christiansted, going down into, there's a place where it all kind of funnels together into one lane, and a guy popped up out of nowhere, and we were stopped. I was in the back of a Suzuki Samurai, and I heard, "Hey, white boy," pop, pop, pop. And I could see him shooting right at me. I could see the muzzle flash and everything. And somehow, I think it was a little snub nose, and that's probably the only reason he missed, but just had bullets flying around me. That was the first time actually, I think I was about 14 when that 14 or 15 when that happened. And then, yeah, scuba diving over the years, as safe as it is, it's not always 100%. And we'd, get caught in rip currents and get taken out to sea and have to wait for somebody to rescue us and all kinds of stuff. And then flying, I used to fly the newspapers from St. Croix to St. Thomas, and the man who owned it, who's now long gone, but he never wanted to put enough fuel in it. And he wanted to see if I could make it without the fuel, because the more weight that the fuel took, the less newspapers I could fly over to St. Thomas. And so there were multiple times where I was coming back headed towards the North Shore, and I would not have made it had it not been just by the grace of God or whatever it was. And I'd turn the corner and come into land in St. Croix, and a couple times I'd be out of fuel by the time I got to the end of the runway, and they'd have to come tow me in to get fuel. And
Wow.
flying, I flew I was flying seaplanes, and we took off one time from St. Thomas, and it was a tropical depression. And the tropical depression in that 17 minutes turned into a category 1. And so I landed in a tropical, or excuse me, in a category 1 hurricane. And that was really scary, because the pilot who was supposed to be flying, he came in and he freaked out, and he pulled up just enough to fly us right into Christiansted. And I took over the plane from him and just barely got us up over the top of a house, and hit the wheel. The wheel had hit a palm tree. And I remember, the wheel was spinning, and I was like, oh God, that was close. Another time I almost got sucked into Crater Lake here in Oregon. That was a mess. Yeah, just,
So tell me you've slowed down a little bit now that you're not.
Oh, I have. Yeah. But now I've got a bunch of property with a bunch of juniper trees, and they're massive. Some of them are 30, 40 foot tall. And I got into chainsaws, and I now have kind of this weird, strange addiction to cutting down these massive weeds called junipers. And there's been quite a few times I've, just about cut my leg off. And
I was going to ask, do you still have both your legs and arms on you there?
Yes, right now, today, I sure do. Yeah.
So talk to me about how all these all these experiences are now part of your boardroom, apply to the boardroom and your business philosophy that you teach others about.
Well, I think that it really made for a good, stable foundation for going into business, because I always had business in my mind. Every time I was working at a place or traveling somewhere, I was always thinking about marketing and sales. And I'd stay in a hostel in Papeete or Auckland or somewhere, and I'd think, okay, well, how could you get more people in this hostel, or how could you give me a better experience while I'm here? I was fairly young, and I was like always just absorbing the business aspect of life. And then by the time I started my own businesses, I was kind of almost underwhelmed by how non-scary it was. And then, frightening things would happen, like the UPS drivers wouldn't show up, or a delivery wouldn't make it on time, or we'd run out of money. And I'd always go back to, okay, nobody's shooting at us. Both engines are, we have no engine failure. There's no fire. We really don't have to freak out that much, and by the time I got to Hydro Flask, I think that, the stakes were larger, and with employees, of course, things get kind of spooky when you can't make payroll on, in 4 hours, and you don't know what you're going to do. But for the most part, I always try to kind of maintain that even keel, that, it's not as bad as the people around me are saying it is.
Right. Folks, we're going to be right back with Travis and hear more about his amazing stories and business. And so let's take a minute and hear from Marketing Boost. We'll be right back.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
You just heard about Marketing Boost, folks. If you haven't checked out, if you're in business and you're not incentivizing your clients to take certain actions, well, you could be missing a lot of activity, leaving money on the table. We provide you with the wow, surprise, and delight factor, the ability to have these powerful, high value incentives that you can offer to your clients when they take certain actions, like pay for a year in advance and get a complimentary bonus vacation as a bonus or as a reward or a perk or a loyalty program, or offer our hotel savings cards when they book a no obligation Zoom call with you or one of your salespeople. Offer a restaurant savings voucher when they reach their anniversary and annual anniversary and what have you. So there's all kinds of ways to use those incentives, and that's why what we teach you as well in our Facebook community of over 31,000 entrepreneurs in that one group alone, where we're constantly sharing ideas with each other on how to use incentives to grow your business. But we're back with Travis. Travis, we were talking about how you took the experiences of near-death experiences, compared them to the business world where it's never quite that bad typically, and therefore you were prepared to handle whatever came flying your way. Reminding me of my experience in St. Thomas as well. I'd never really given it much thought, but in Puerto Rico, I was held up at gunpoint when they robbed my nightclub at one point. In St. Thomas, we were robbed multiple times walking out the door. You know, like as you say, off season, man, everybody gets a little desperate. In my time, I even remember it got so bad in St. Thomas that at one point, anyway, I think that's all changed now, but the United States military, the Navy, it was off limits for them to come to the Virgin Islands, and they used to come monthly. And then it got so bad that they were no longer allowed on the island because of they'd come in and they'd end up in bar fights up and down the streets, and some of them being shot and killed, and it was like, what a mess. So that was a hit for us financially, because when they hit town, they used to like flood our restaurant, and we'd have thousands of sailors on there spending all their money.
Yeah, I bet.
But anyway, Travis, back to your insight. Let's take a look at your website a little bit while you chat next. If your folks want to figure out how to find and listen to more about Travis here, we're going to show his website. If you happen to be on YouTube or Rumble, we're showing his website here, travisrosbach.com. So anyway, Travis, I'm showing your page here. Do you have anything in particular you'd like to share about this website of yours here?
I am extremely embarrassed about this website. This is my attempt at building websites, and I know that my lane does not include building websites. A lot of things I'm fairly good at and pretty good at. Building websites really isn't one of them.
Well, no worries about it. It's about what's on here, the content that and how people can get a hold of you to book a call, have you as a guest speaker at events, or hire you as a consulting. Providing business consulting, manufacturing consulting, or speaking events. But let's get back to your story. How did you go again from, and maybe you want to talk about the invention of yours. I slipped my mind just now. Yeah, the Hydro Flask.
Yeah. Well, so I was out in Oahu, Hawaii, and I had a partner at that time, and we owned a sign company. We did screen printing and banners and big outdoor marquee signs and all sorts of agency type of activities. We were marketing and branding and doing a lot of that type of promotional product world. And we were living on the beach and got tired of the plastic washing up on the shores every single day. And at first it was kind of fun to clean up the plastic. And then after about 3 or 4 days, it became pretty expensive with the garbage collectors collecting the recycling and charging us for these extra bags of plastic. And I had this kind of crazy notion that if I could only make or if I could buy if I could buy a bottle that I could use over and over again, then maybe there would be less plastic washing up on the shores. And so I went into a sporting goods store and I said, hey, I'm here to buy a water bottle. And they said, well, we really don't have any more. And they took me to this big wall, and it was completely empty of where the bottles had used to be. And I said, well, who's going to fill up this shelf? What happened? And they said, well, there's this stuff. We're not really sure what it is. It's probably not going to be a big deal, but it's called BPA. The owner of the sporting goods store had been in France and had read an article, and as a preemptive precautionary measure, she pulled all the plastic bottles that were called Nalgene. And I said, well, who's going to do this? Who's going to do water bottles? And they said, nobody. There's nobody else doing water bottles. And Marco, it just hit me in the back of my head. It came out my mouth, and I said, I will do this. And the guy kind of laughed, and I saw the future, and I saw myself up on stage in about 10 years talking about this highly successful water bottle company. And it was kind of this surreal out of body experience. And next thing I knew, I was selling, mopeds and longboards, and I was off towards China, and I got to China, and they said, no, we don't do that. We don't do double wall vacuum insulated stainless steel water bottles. We do plastic, or we do single wall bottles. And I had this idea. My grandpa had a metal and glass thermos from I don't know, it looks like it's from the 1800s or so. It was really heavy and it stunk. And if you dropped it, it'd break your ankle or foot and toe and break your leg. But anyway, I thought, well, instead of doing glass, could we do stainless and stainless, make it lighter, make it like, this was before the term everyday carry, but can we have a product that we can actually drink water from? I go to the beach, I set it in the sand, I go surf, I come back, and single wall bottles, I drank, it was so hot, it would burn. Here in Oregon, I'd hike to the top of a mountain. I get to the top, I go to drink water, and the bottle was frozen. Well, how do we insulate water bottles so that I can actually have, water when I need water at a temperature that's palatable? And spent quite a few months in China and back and forth all throughout 2008, and then 2009 came out with the very first prototypes of Hydro Flask, the double wall vacuum insulated 18/8 stainless steel water bottles.
Which is what I guess I would say Yeti is probably a big competitor of yours now with
They
that.
are now, yeah. Nowadays, yeah. Yeti, I don't know when they started, but they started out in the cooler, the ice chest space, and they saw how well the double wall vacuum insulated bottles were going, and they jumped into the market. Quite a few people jumped in, and yeah, just kind of all kind of trying to find their own niche and their own lane within the fairly saturated market, no pun intended.
Right, right. So talk to me now about what you they got your promoting your product right there on camera there. There you go.
Well, that was it. That was a brand you just mentioned.
Perfect. So tell me now about what you coach others on in business and how you help entrepreneurs, big and small, overcome challenges. And what inspirations or what ideas would you give entrepreneurs today that are getting started?
Yeah, well, so after Hydro Flask, I found that I really missed business. I thought, oh, I'll just go retire off on a beach somewhere, and I'll just go scuba dive and travel the planet, which I did for a few years, and I had a great time. And then I got extremely bored and realized I was only 33 at that time, and I needed something to do. So I started doing business consulting and advising and a little bit of coaching here and there. And I found that the manufacturing side in China was something that a lot of people were having a really hard time with. It's a very foreign land, and the concepts of business between the United States and China are very different. And I've now spent 16 years going going back and forth and understand the Chinese culture fairly well, and the business side of things especially. And so I started helping people here in the States, especially. I do have international clients as well, but predominantly here in the States, American brands either find a factory in China and or find a new factory, or work with their pre-existing factories even better and more smoothly. So sometimes I do field trips to the Orient where I take clients and we go over and we meet new factories and we see the country, and I explain the cultural differences about, they may say this and we may say that, but we're both actually saying the same thing here. And so I do a lot of that. And then I also do a lot of brand building and marketing help. I can come into a company usually and within a pretty quick amount of time. I'm kind of embarrassed, Marco, to say it, but I kind of call it my Rain Man kind of idiot savant mode, where it just kind of downloads. I have, gosh, I'm 46 this year. I was 12. So I've got, what's that, 34 years of business books and tapes and programs and lectures and seminars just kind of rattling around in my brain. And when I walk into a place or I see a place, a lot of times it just starts coming out, like move this to the left and change that red to pink and that blue to purple, or whatever it happens to be. Little small tweaks that a lot of times people overanalyze or over articulate something, but maybe even dumb it down a little bit is what I tend to do.
And make it make sense. And I, as far as manufacturing, it is a big challenge. Years ago, I had the opportunity to help a company take to market a kind of a Roku box. It was over the top streaming device for before streaming was so easily available, around on every device available. But yeah, we had to go do the manufacturing in China, and it was a mess, right? Trying to get the right what we wanted designed and get it produced, and then had to go back to the drawing board again because it didn't come out we wanted, and so on. And yeah, having somebody to have helped us walk through that process and what the expectations are of what you expected delivered versus when they think they're going to deliver, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I can see where hiring your expertise for 16 years back and forth between China is a great idea. So if you're listening, guys, and you're in this, you're thinking about having something made in China, look for Travis here for support. Let's take another break. We'll be right back. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Automation Booster, and we'll be right back.
Is your business on autopilot yet? Do you have automation in place to capture, nurture, and convert prospects into clients via email, SMS, ringless voicemails, appointment setting? Get all the inbound and outbound marketing tools in one place. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on automating your business so you can make money while you sleep.
You just heard from Automation Booster, guys. And if you're in business and you're not automated, if you don't have a CRM system that helps you capture and nurture, turn leads from leads to paying clients, check out Automation Booster. I've been an internet marketer since 1996, before Google, before Facebook, and I've never seen a product as affordable as what we offer with Automation Booster that does everything under one roof. Your ability to do all your inbound and outbound marketing with one platform for email, texting, voicemail, broadcasting. Check it out. AutomationBooster.com will help you make money while you sleep. Travis, we're back with you. Tell us more about, give us some inspiration for this entrepreneur who's struggling, getting started, and can't seem to see past his nose with issues and things coming his way, and not profitable yet, but trying to be. What's where should they go for or they already are successful, but for plateauing, they're not able to scale as much as they'd like to. What inspiration would you have for them?
I actually just wrote down automationbooster.com. I'm going to check that out myself. I think that now is a wonderful time to be an entrepreneur in this country and or any country, really. I think that we've seen a very big change in the last 4 years of how businesses are run and how they're operated and how the manufacturing side of things is. And strictly from a manufacturing standpoint, I think that if there's anybody who has a product and they have it made in China, now is the time to go to China and go meet with their factory if they haven't done so already, or if they haven't been there in the last 4 years. You really need to go to your factories. You really need to go meet the people in human, and you need to see what's going on over there. They're extremely hungry for business. They've lost a lot of their economy. As our economy slows down, their economy in manufacturing slowed down. And now is a great time to go get really, really highly proficient factories at a very good cost. Of course, we have tariffs, duties, and tax, which is inevitable. But now is a really good time for small businesses to start manufacturing, I believe. And it's very difficult, but it's if you can pull it off, now is the time. And I think that as we see some of these larger corporations starting to take a little bit of heat for some of their actions and some of the things that they've been doing over the last few decades, now is a good time for the small mom and pop shops to start popping up. I think that we need to localize business also, and we need to start opening more and more businesses. I really, really do.
Amen to that. The small business is the lifeblood of the world, especially of the United States, folks. And if you're an entrepreneur, hats off to you. If you'd like to, before we go, Travis, tell us more about where folks can find you. I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn page here, and let's quickly share that if I've got my page open properly.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is probably the best place to send me a message. Travis Rosbach, ROSBACH.com. You can send me a message there. I'm also Travis at TravisRosbach.com if you'd rather send me an email. And then we'll probably just jump on a Zoom and get right into it. I think that's usually about the best way to either book me for speaking or talk about consulting or any other just wild, exciting idea. Like, I'm always down to clown. Like, if you got a cool project, I want to hear about it because I probably want to partake.
Okay, that sounds great. So folks, if you like the content we brought you today, please give us a like, give us a share. If you got any questions for Travis or what have you, comments for us, go ahead and write those down in the notes. I mean, in the channel below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can on your comments. And like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast, and share this with somebody who might be an entrepreneur looking for ideas, looking for solutions. Share the whole Marketing Boost story with them. Travis, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have any final words of wisdom for anybody out there?
I just say act boldly, and unseen forces will come to your aid. If you're an entrepreneur or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, seriously, go out, take the first step, get the Idiot's Guide book, or, I'm sure that you've got a lot of resources also, Marco. Like, just get into it. Seriously, get started. It's a good time to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy, but it's a good time, and it's only going to get better.
I absolutely agree with that. There's never been, in my opinion, now to coattail on that, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, in the sense that there's so much technology available to make things easier, from automating your website, automating your lead generation, from using all of the tools of building a website and everything. It's so affordable these days compared to where it was when I started on the internet in 1996. I have no clue about manufacturing, so that's where you got to go to Travis for help there. Folks, again, thank you for your time. Stay thirsty for knowledge, my friends, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.